You arrive at the same place. Your thoughts light up and you can almost see the way to victory. But something keeps holding you back, pinned to the mat. Stuck between where you are and where you want to be. The endless fight with anxiety, the constant body slam of doubts and fears, the ropes seem to be the barrier of tension. What happens if I let go and wrestle through instead of running away?
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to fight. We are starting a brand new series, and I love how the kind of the intro or setup kind of positioned it, because so many of us feel that. We feel that sense of stuck, and I hope you're not right at this moment, but it is a common thing where we feel like, hey, here's where I am, that's where I'm supposed to be, or that's where I want to be, and I just can't seem to get there. Whether it's apathy or frustration or anxiety or just things not going the right way or things outside of my control that keep happening that make me feel like I can't get ahead, whatever it is, we all know that stuck feeling. And here's where it really kind of hits home for so many of us. It's really hard to trust God when you feel like you're stuck. When life is pulling you in all kinds of directions and you don't feel like you can make any progress, it's really hard to trust God. Now, I know not everybody here maybe isn't even a follower of Jesus, and so we're going to be talking about this idea of living life distracted or living life intentionally. And so whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, that totally makes sense. You understand. You can either kind of go through life and have a bunch of stuff happen to you and shrug your shoulders all the time and wonder how come this is and how come that, or you can actually be intentional and focused and have a purpose. And so even if you're not a follower of Jesus, this makes sense. But if you are, how much more that not only am I trying to live my life on purpose, but I want to align my life with God's purpose, because I know that's where real life is. But it's a struggle. It's hard. And when it's somebody else's struggle, we get it. And we're happy to encourage. And I kind of take the whole gym metaphor, right? No pain, no gain. The struggle is going to make you stronger. And, all the little phrases we throw around when it's somebody else, right? When it's us and it's our struggle, that's a little different deal, right? We're not so interested in the catchy phrases and the quick solutions. But it's true, isn't it? We know that struggles either break us or shape us. One of the two. When things are not going well and we push through it, something happens to us. And here's a thought that maybe you've not considered before that I want to put in your head and your heart as we go through this series, not just today, but through this series over the next several weeks. Sometimes all we really want God to do is change our circumstances. And sometimes what God is actually doing is using our circumstances to change us. The struggle actually has value. The difficulty, the opposition, the pushback, things not working, God is actually doing some things in that. And he might be making changes in you that cannot be made any other way. And while we don't like the struggle, and we would rather have a struggle-free existence if we could, the reality is we have a choice. We know we are going to face those struggles. So how are we going to wrestle through them? And that's what we're talking about. Are we going to wrestle against the struggle by ourselves, or are we going to wrestle against the struggle with God? How are we going to approach that? Because it's going to absolutely create some tension in your life. And that tension can do some powerful things. And I know it's kind of kitschy and it rhymes and it sounds like a little bit of a throwaway phrase, but this is so incredibly important. Wrestling with the tension redirects your attention. When I'm willing to wrestle with the tension, what it does is it forces me to look at God, not just my problems. I'm not just looking at my issue and just trying to figure it out and get unstuck and do all the things. If I start looking at God instead of my problems first, it changes the experience for me. But so many of us, the reality is, we can't help it. We're living a life that's somewhat distracted. As much as we maybe want to be on purpose, as much as we maybe want to have a focus, there's just so much stuff coming at us. It's easy to live distracted. And I read about a lady that I want to share with you, and I'm glad she lives in California because she's an incredibly distracted driver. Her name's Kathy Smith. And Kathy has about an hour 20 commute every day to get to work. And she has her self-proclaimed queen, I guess, of distracted driving. And so normal day is she's always doing something while she drives to work. She's either finishing breakfast, putting on her makeup, all that stuff, and you're like, okay, I see people do that. But then she talks about steering with her knees so she can take notes on her phone. I'm like, okay, that's getting a little dangerous. She said before she has left the house in her pajamas and FaceTimed a coworker while she changed clothes and got to work fully dressed and ready for the day. And I'm kind of like, now you're getting out like a little way out there. And then her own self-professed greatest achievement was driving to a funeral while FaceTiming somebody and closing a deal, a sales deal, and at the same time making a salad for the after-funeral meal with the cutting board and the knives and the vegetables and all the stuff, the pasta. Made the salad while she was driving, while she was making the sales call. And here's what she said. She said, it's not a problem because I'm really good at it. I doubt it. I doubt it. A lot of people can't drive even when they're focused, much less when they got other stuff going on. But that's our problem too. We think we're not distracted. We think that even whatever distractions we have in our life, we got it. We're pretty good. And so today is a beginning of a two-part message. It's going to take this week and next week to finish it up, where we're going to talk about what is the role that digital plays in our life, and how distracting is it really, and what is it costing me if I get distracted by digital stuff. And it's easy to think, oh, that's just kids in the screens, right? That's not me. I'm not involved, or I'm not subject to that kind of stuff. The reality is, we got some statistics to show you. It's hitting everybody. And so boomers, those people born before 1964, can we put those up real quick? Oh, that was quick. I said real quick, and they put them up real quick. Boomers, 1946 to 1964. Boomers, okay, these are the older adults in our world right now. Users of social media has grown 78% in the last 5 years that boomers are on social media. Gen Xers, I did this last time. How many of you are Gen Xers? And such a Gen X thing to do is not even admit it. Like, no, I'm not a Gen Xer. Gen Xers, 1965 to 1980. 75% use social media and have a significant presence on most platforms. Millennials, some of our younger adults, 81 to 96. Over half report overspending on digital services trying to keep up. And Gen Zers, 1997 to 2012, average 4 hours a day on devices. Everybody is doing digital. Now, you may be the rare exception, like I don't have anything, I'm not on anything, I don't know how to use a phone, I can't turn on the computer. And if you're not, I understand, then you are probably not distracted by digital. You're probably distracted by something else. But for most of us, it is digital that gets us. It hooks us in. And I don't think digital is bad. Don't hear me to say, get rid of your phones or devices. I love it. I mean, it's easier to communicate because of digital things. Social media keeps us in touch with other people. AI has changed the way we work and even, unfortunately, changed some people's need for jobs. But digital's not going to go away. But here's the thing. So often, it creates this kind of low-key pressure. Constant comparison. What is everybody else doing? What does everybody else have? How come I don't do those things? How come my kids aren't in that? How come I didn't get a thing? How come, where did they get the money for that stuff? And we just constantly feel this pressure. And even spiritual things. You might even be looking at spiritual stuff online like, well, how'd they get so grown up in their faith with God? And I'm still over here rubbing two sticks together. I mean, well, they're on fire. What's going on? Like, it creates this low-key competition, pressure. I'm afraid I'm missing out. There's something missing in my life that never relents. And to illustrate it, I want you to watch Emily's story and listen to what she talks about how social media has an impact in what's going on for her.
Hi, church. My name's Emily Edgar. I'm a current student at ASU. I recently had an experience in Nepal where we were about ready to leave and come back to America, and I was talking with a sweet friend, Caitlin, and Pastor Corey just about this mission trip and how amazing it was and just the work that the Lord has done, and realizing that I'm going to be coming back to reality and what that looks like, coming back to school and work and, all the assignments, all the studies and appointments and stuff like that. And with that, I knew that one of my biggest struggles is school. Going to ASU and living away from my parents and struggling with the temptation of underage drinking. And, I have friends out there who are believers and I have friends who are non-believers. And I really was wrestling with, okay, I just am coming back from this amazing mission trip and I know I'm going to be faced with, hey, Emily, do you want to come out and do this with us? And I know I'm going to wrestle with, okay, I know I shouldn't, but I don't want to miss out. I don't want to have, I know I'm going to have FOMO just sitting at home. I struggle with the fear of missing out. And I knew that if I said no, that I really would struggle with it, that I'd later see it on Instagram or Snapchat and be like, man, I'm missing out on this. When in reality, it's not even something that I want to be doing. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing it, but for some reason, I still wanted to be there just so that I didn't miss out on anything. So I was able to talk to Pastor Corey and Caitlin about this and was reminded that they're there to hold me accountable as fellow believers, that we all wrestle with different temptations, which was huge for me just to remember that I'm not alone in this. And through these different scenarios and times, I've been able to be a friend to my friends who are non-believers, to be able to be the designated driver, but to also, they know, like, something's different. Like, oh, Emily's not drinking. Like, why is she not doing this? And, conversations have, kind of sparked because of that. And they're like, oh, you went to Nepal. Like, what was that about? And so just seeing the Lord work through these different situations has been such a blessing. And, just to also remember that, like, the Lord can and will use, every situation for the good and for his glory. And, it's still something that I know I will struggle with going forward, but it's, having those boundaries and having that accountability that, like, okay, I'm gonna go out and, drinking could be there. I don't know if it is, but it could be there. I'm gonna tell Caitlin, I'm gonna tell Pastor Corey, I'm gonna tell Ethan, like, I'm gonna tell all these people so that they can check on me through the night and know, like, I know, okay, if I choose to do this, not only will I go before the Lord, but I will also have to explain to these people what happened and what I did. And so that was, like, a huge thing. And just setting those boundaries and remembering that I can go to these things and I can be there for an hour and I can leave and remove myself from that situation was huge. And so thank you for letting me share my story with you.
I love that. She's so brave to kind of just be honest about something that we all face. Everybody's fight is a little bit different, but we're all fighting different things. And there's a pastor that wrote a letter to a group of believers that we're going to look at this morning, and it's in the book of Hebrews. So if you've got a Bible or an app or you want to follow along, we're going to be in Hebrews 10. And while they didn't have a digital distraction, they're no different than you. They had all kinds of things pulling at them. They had a feeling of being stuck. They had questions about how to move forward. They're trying to balance all the different aspects of their life, and they had the comparison thing, and they had the fear of, well, but if I do this, what if I don't get that? Or what if this happens and then I'm not allowed to do that? Whatever the case may be. And so we're going to look at what he said to them in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23, and he gives them some really, really good direction about how to manage this, how to wrestle with this well. Hebrews 10:23, it says, let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Your translation may say provoke one another on to love and good deeds. Not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. So it's actually pretty straightforward, but I want to break it down into kind of three handles that maybe can help you today. If you're one of those that feel that sense of the world's going on out there around me and I don't get to be part of it, at least maybe not the way I want to be. First big idea, and this one is kind of more internal, that you need to hold on to hope, not dreams. You need to make the choice to hold on to hope and not dreams. You're like, what is the difference? What are you talking about? Hey, first of all, dreams, I get it. Dreams are not bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any dreams. In America, the dream is usually to get more, to be a YouTube influencer, to have more stuff, go on more trips, keep stacking experiences because we're bored, and so we just keep stacking up stuff that maybe if I do enough things, go enough places, get enough stuff, I'll feel good about myself. And so we chase those dreams sometimes. And like I said, on the whole, dreams are not bad. They help set direction. They can motivate you. They can give you goals. But here's where dreams fail. Dreams are a terrible anchor for your soul. They're great to, like I said, give you some motivation, give you a little direction, give you something to work towards. They're terrible as an anchor for your soul and for your life. Because what happens if the dream gets crushed? Well, if you've anchored down on that dream, you get crushed too. But if your anchor is somewhere else, you're disappointed that your dreams didn't happen, but it doesn't crush your life. And in the Bible, the word hope is used very differently than we do. A lot of times when we say hope, what we're saying is we're wishing. I hope I get that job. I hope the promotion comes through. I hope she gets into that school. I hope. We're talking about wishes. In the Bible, they use the word hope very, very differently. The word hope in the Bible is a guarantee of what God is going to do and is already doing. So when it says to put your hope in him, it's saying to put your trust in the fact that God's already done it and he's promised to keep doing it. And so, for example, in Isaiah 40, you put your hope in the promise that God makes that he will give us strength. In Jeremiah 29, you put your hope in the promise God makes that he will protect you and watch out for you. In Romans 15, you put your hope in the promise that God makes that he will give you peace. And here's the thing. You are sitting around people right now, today, this morning, that have already experienced those promises. They look back and they go, oh, absolutely God has given me strength. Absolutely I've trusted God and it's changed the way I feel and I feel protected. And absolutely I've trusted God and he's given me peace. All those things have already happened. This isn't wish for stuff. This is stuff that's available now and that God guarantees in the future. And so when you choose hope instead of dreams, when you anchor into hope, all of a sudden, feeling like you're missing out, worrying about what everybody else is doing, looking at how my life stacks up next to everybody else's and how I'm parenting my kids and they're parenting their kids and the things they're buying and the things I'm not buying and all that stuff, calms down. It's not that important because my life is anchored in the hope that I have in God, not the dreams for things that maybe I want to do or see or get to experience. There's another decision that you get to make, and this one starts to get a little more personal. This is kind of internal, and it ends up showing up externally, and that is to choose to encourage, not envy. When it comes to other people, you choose to encourage, not envy. And I absolutely understand this one because it is so much easier to go with envy. It is so easy, and I do this all the time. You get online and you're scrolling and you're looking at reels or you're checking out your friends and you're like, where'd they get the money for that? You know, and you keep going along and you're like, well, I've never been there. Well, how'd they get to that trip? You know, and well, look what their kid's doing. My kid's not doing that. It's so easy to start thinking about all the things that I don't have, the experiences I haven't been able to do, and the things they have, and choose envy. And what happens? It just ratchets it up. I already have a sense of comparison. I already feel like I'm missing out. And now you just keep ratcheting it up because I'm looking at all the other things that other people have. I learned this from another pastor. He told me, he said, you know, I had to put this in place in my life because I found myself being really jealous of other people. And I'm not asking for apologies or anything else. We're very blessed here at Mountain Ridge, but not every pastor has got a church like this one. Sometimes a lot of pastors are overworked and underpaid and in a really tough spot. And it's so easy for them to look around and go, man, everybody in my church is doing this. I can't do it. I can't afford it. I don't have the time for that. Nobody, you know, it's easy to feel sorry for yourself. He decided, I'm going to make a decision. I am not going to envy everyone else. And so he put this very simple rule in place in his life. He said, when I know that I'm going somewhere where I'm going to see other people, when I'm going to church or I'm going to work or I'm going to the store, wherever I'm going to go, I make a very, very conscious effort that every time I see someone, I'm going to smile and I'm going to encourage them. And I thought, okay, well, that sounds nice. That's kind of being a good person. I get that. I mean, you know, and you're a nice guy and all the stuff. But why? What's the secret sauce for that? He goes, here's what I've discovered. It's impossible for me to envy someone that I'm trying to encourage. Like if I put my heart and mind on building them up, if I put my heart and mind on complimenting, appreciating, talking good to them, about them, and letting them know what I admire about them, it's really hard for me to envy them. And I've tried to put that in place in my own life. It's an experiment for me. I wouldn't say I'm there yet, but man, it makes such a difference when you take that very simple approach that when I walk in the room, I'm just going to try to smile and encourage people. All that missing out stuff and that comparison stuff starts to really die down. There's one other one that's really big, and that's to make the choice to connect, not disconnect. He said, don't give up the habit of meeting together, and he's talking about worship. He's talking to believers in Jesus about worshiping Jesus. But it's a decision that we have to make too, to connect, not disconnect. And let me get super practical, and I don't mean to upset you, and if you do, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to provoke you. I'm trying to point something out. But it is so common, isn't it, to look around and see what everybody else is doing. And we don't really care about their jobs that much. We care about their weekends and their evenings and when they're not working. Like, what are they doing when they're not working? And it's so easy to look and see, well, they're out every weekend doing something, and they're doing family day at the park, and they're sleeping in, and they're going to brunch, and they're doing this, and they're doing that, and they're at the tournament, and they're at the practice, and they're at the game, and they're here, and they're there, and they're everywhere, but for whatever reason, they can't make it to church. They can't really worship very often because they're afraid if I go to church, I'm going to miss out on all that stuff. I'm going to miss all those experiences, all those trips, all those fun and cool things, and I don't want to miss all that. So I'm going to skip over here so I can do all of these things. And the irony behind it all, and I think I can prove it to you, the irony behind it all is no matter how much of this stuff you do, you still feel like you're missing out. And here's why I say that. There's really only a couple of things in your life that are what I would call transcendent, right? You know this. Your life is not the food you eat, the places you go, the trips you take. That is not your life. There's nothing wrong with those things. Those are tools you use to live your life, and I'm glad if you have opportunities to do that. But you know, those things are not your life. That your soul desires something bigger than that. Your heart wants to be filled with joy, and while you can enjoy those things themselves cannot give you joy. There's just very few things in life that you're going to run into that connects you to something bigger. And worship is one of those things. When I worship God, it brings me life. When I worship God, it fills me with joy. And I can just even say, me personally, when I worship God, I get a different perspective. I get a different perspective on Him. I get a different perspective on you, perspective on my neighbors. I see people differently. The wounds that I have, He heals. The sins that I have, He forgives. It absolutely changes me when I get connected to something transcendent. But it feels like I'm going to miss out about all the stuff, all the things, all the places I can go. And here's why I say it's ironic. When we trade worshiping God and connecting with God for doing all the other stuff, going to the games and taking a trip and doing this and doing that and brunch and all the other stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those things. But ultimately, when we start choosing those things over worship, here's what happens. No matter how much of those things we do, we still feel empty. We still feel like we're missing something. We got to do more. We got to have something else. We got to have a bigger thing and another stuff and get the kids to do that. And we just got to keep piling on. And we still feel like we're missing. But when we connect with the transcendent, when we choose to worship God, when He fills our soul, it really doesn't matter how many of those experiences we have because we don't feel like we're missing anything. He pours out life into our life. And all those other things don't seem all that important anymore. He's telling, if you want to live a focused life, this is what it looks like. It's those choices. Here's what I know. You can make those choices. You can agree with me today, maybe even. You can nod your head. You can kind of review your life and, yeah, I need to do that, or I want to do that, or that's a good reminder, or I'd never thought about that. Maybe I should put that in practice. And kind of walk out today ready to roll. And it's going to come back. Because that's what it is. You're still, that sense of comparison, that sense of FOMO, all those things, they're going to come back. They don't leave. You may resolve it for a little while, but you're never going to solve it, right? You can't just check it off and like, oh yeah, I dealt with that one time. I never compare. I never feel like I'm missing out anymore. It'll just come back, whether it comes through a digital channel or some other place. It'll just keep coming. So how do you manage that tension? What do you do when you feel yourself starting to get distracted and you feel yourself starting to be pulled away from living intentionally? I would suggest to you there's a couple questions you need to ask yourself. Really basic questions, but super helpful questions. First one, what do I want most? What do I want most? And this is big life type question. Not, do I want a sandwich or do I want a slice of pizza? What do I want most in life? It's a big question, actually, but it helps you really focus. And I'll give you two examples right out of the Bible. First one is a guy named Moses. If you know some of the stories, he led the children of Israel out of slavery. God used him to do some incredible things. But the personal side of Moses' life, we find him desperately seeking God. Like, he had all this responsibility. He had a family. He had a job. He had all the things that we have. But one of the things you notice about him is over and over and over, he continually seeks God's face. He continually seeks the Lord's presence to the point where he said, God, I just want to see you. If I could nail it all down and sum it all up in one thing, I just want to see you. And God finally gives him this incredible experience. And it changes him. It changes Moses. It changes his life. It changes the way he leads. It changes the way he lives. It changes everything about him. What do you want most? For Moses, I want to see God. There's another guy in the Bible. His name was Solomon. And Solomon was a king, the wealthiest king that ever lived. And Solomon said, if you'd asked him, what do you want most? He said, I want it all. I want to experience all of it. Women, food, accomplishments, achievements, victories, money, wealth, fame. I want all of it. And he went after all of it, and he got all of it. He was one of the very few. He actually got all the stuff. And you know what he said at the end of his life? He wrote in a book named Ecclesiastes. He said, life is a mist and a vapor, and it's meaningless. See, it really matters that you know what you want most of all. Because if you can start to answer that question, it can keep you on track. Second question, who am I intertwined with? Who am I intertwined with? I don't know if you've ever got a chance to visit or anything else, and I found out earlier today, there's called a sequoia. It's a giant tree, and there's one called the General Sherman. The General Sherman is what's believed to be the biggest tree on the planet. It's 275 feet high. It's 25 feet around, and it is a giant sequoia. It's a massive, massive tree, and you would think that a tree that size, certainly it has, huge roots that go incredibly deep into the ground. But it doesn't. They only go about 6 to 12 feet down, which is crazy. It's 275 feet high. It only goes down 12 feet. What in the world happens? They don't go down. They go out. And what happens is you don't find a sequoia by itself. They grow together. And what happens is the roots from one tree get intertwined with the roots from another tree. And it happens all around it. And so they keep reaching out to where you cannot tell which root system belongs to which tree. And so what happens is because of the way they hold each other up, no matter how many storms, earthquakes, wind, whatever it is, 275 feet tall, they stand strong. And I would ask you, who have you intertwined the roots of your life with? Because let me be super plain. If you have made it the focus to intertwine your life with God and God's people, like I'm going to worship God, I'm going to be in a community group, I want to be connected to people, they will hold you up, and you will hold them up. You heard Emily's story. She talked about that. It's other people in her life that are helping her stay accountable and helping her stay strong, and she's going to one day have a chance to do the same for them. They're intertwined. So when the pressure comes and you start to feel like you're missing out and you start to feel like you're comparing, who am I intertwined with? What's most important in my relationships? Finally, last one, and I love this question. Who can I provoke? Who can I provoke? Some of you are like, I got that one. I can do that one. There's a lot of people I want to provoke. It says to provoke to love and good deeds. And the idea is not to only be an example. It's not only, see, I'm doing these good things and I'm trying to set an example, which is great. The idea is it has a little bit of a sharpness to it. It has a little bit of a positive confrontation in it even. Like, hey, come on, you and me, let's go. Let's go do this together. Let's do something that makes a difference. Let's live a life that's meaningful. Come on, you and me, come on. No, stop doing that. Let's go together. Let's do this. You call each other out a little bit. Who can I provoke? Because much like encouragement and envy, if I have made it my focus to connect with the people in my life and try to provoke them to love well, to do good things, it's really hard to get caught up in comparing and thinking about what I'm missing and struggling with all the stuff that I don't have. And so who can I provoke? Now, if I had to sum all of this up, so you got the big ideas from Hebrews. You got the questions we're going to ask ourselves. If I had to sum it all up, how does this work? How does this work when it comes to life? It's holding on to my hope in Christ. That's what keeps me from missing life. When I hold on to the hope that I have in Jesus' death, burial, resurrection, the Spirit that comes to live in me when I become a follower of His, that's what keeps me from missing life. It's not stacking experiences. It's not going to one more tournament. It's not scrolling for a few more minutes. None of those things are going to give you life. It's Him. And it is easy to get distracted. It is easy to get off track. And Proverbs 19 has an incredible word for us. And this may be something that you want to remember or write down or put it on your screensaver or maybe even memorize it this week. Proverbs 19:23. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. So for just real quick, backwards engineer that for a second. Do you want a life that's characterized by being untouched by trouble? Would you like to be able to say, I rest content. He's telling us it's the fear of the Lord that leads to that life. You can have it. God wants to give it to you. It doesn't come from all the stuff. It doesn't come from all the distractions. It doesn't come from the things that keep pulling you in different directions. You can wrestle against those things on your own, or you can wrestle with God on your side. And when you do, you find out that the fear and the comparison and the concern level drops tremendously. Now, we are just getting started on digital. Like, that's just kind of the opener. When I was a kid, I watched every Saturday WWE. There's like 3 people that know what that is. Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment, or something like that. And it was amazing because even at 10, 12 years old, I thought it was fake, but I wasn't sure, I was kind of like, I think it's real, Anyway, and so all the Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, $1 Million Man, all these guys, and they're wrestling, and they have all the matches. And then at the end of the show, every weekend, like the last match was always the big one, and they're going crazy, and it looks like they're about to lose. And then all of a sudden, just when you think it's over, in running comes this guy. And you're like, oh, wait, no, it's not over. And he runs in, and they start throwing each other around the ring, and it's all mayhem. And then they cut to the credits, and they say, come back next week to find out what happened. So those of you that want to know how to guard your life on the digital side, come back next week and see what happens. I want to pray for you. Father God, thank you that even though we get distracted, and every person here is guilty, just like I am, of chasing things instead of you, of putting our hope in stuff that can never actually satisfy. So, Father, first and foremost, I thank you for your mercy and your forgiveness and your patient love. And God, your grace, you pour out life and love to anyone who would have it. And so, Father, together today, we come before you and we ask you to pour that out on us. Would you pour out your grace? Would you show us what it looks like to live a real life? Would you help us to understand how much we are loved? And Father, let us wrestle with you against the things that show up in our path and know that that struggle, even that struggle, is something that you're going to use to change us and to shape us and to make us into who you created us to be. God, you are so, so good to us. We love you. We thank you. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.